Hello. Hi, my name's Pearl Hodling, and I'm a senior in Kirkland House. And I'm here to ask you to join me this Saturday from 10 to 2 for free pancakes from Henrietta's Table in the Mac Quad. 9 years ago, my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a neurological disorder. Though he, my family, and I have gone through many ups and downs, both physical and emotional, I finally found a way to help, a definitive up. I wanted to put on this event, Pancakes for Parkinson's, for a few years now, but I didn't get up the guts to do it until this year. Thank you to all for helping me to get over my procrastination and start building a positive spiral towards finding a cure for Parkinson's disease. All donations will go directly to the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research. So please come between 10 and 2 this Saturday to enjoy pancakes for a good cause. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maureen Hilton, and I'm a fellow student of this class, and I work here at Harvard College. I would like to invite you all to my positive psychology presentation, which is next Friday, May 9th, at 2 p.m. in Harvard Hall. The main goal, Hope for Next Friday, is to bring together in one room people interested in positive psychology here at Harvard. This includes Harvard administrators of all levels, the class's teaching staff, students, whether they are alumni of past positive psychology class, a current student of this class, whether college or extension school, or a student who hopes there's a positive psychology here in the future, and certainly anyone you would like to invite. Please let this be an opportunity for you to share your stories and the reasons why this class has impacted your life. In addition, to help the networking and socializing part of this gathering, the Harvard callbacks will be singing. The seniors who you may know, Gina, Skylar, and Kadar, will be singing their solos for possibly the last time here at Harvard. And there will be free food. Again, please feel free to invite anyone you like, especially fellow students who are hoping there is another positive psychology course in the future. No RSVP is necessary, just come. Because what will definitely leave a lasting impression on the Harvard administration is if together we create a little peak experience and fill a room of people who come together for the promotion of positive psychology. Please come next Friday, May 9th at 2 p.m. at Harvard Hall. Thank you.
I don't really know what to say, so I asked someone to say it for me.
Touching a hand, wondering why it's time for saying goodbye. Saying goodbye, why is it sad? Makes us remember the good times we've had. Much more to say, foolish to try. It's time for saying goodbye.
Don't want to leave, but we both know sometimes it's better to go.
Somehow I know we'll meet again.
until then, it's time for saying goodbye.
Somehow I know we'll meet again. Not sure quite where, and I don't know just when. You're in my heart, so until then, wanna smile, wanna cry, saying goodbye.
It's time for saying goodbye. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la.
So, I need your help. I'm so very nervous. What can I do? Meditate. Thank you. Exercise. Now? You mean dance? Okay. Tell a joke. You tell a joke. What else? Any suggestions? Hug someone. Good idea. At least 12 hugs, right? Yeah. Anything else? Deep breath. Okay, good. So it's okay to be nervous? Thank you. Feel better already. So this is, for me, the last class at Harvard. Who else is in the same boat? Wow. Your last class. What I'd like to do today is summarize what we've gone through, some of the journey, as much as possible. And what I'd like to do is to share that, the responsibility of summarizing, to share it with you. So I'd like to start with you thinking and reflecting about the course. In other words, we're going to run the class today like a small, intimate section. And afterwards, I will go through what I think are some of the highlights, main points from the semester. So I want to start with a time in, an opportunity for you to reflect. And specifically, I would like you to reflect on the following things and actually write them down. So go over your notes or go over your mental notes and write down at least 2 things that were particularly meaningful or interesting for you from the semester, whether it's something you heard in lecture, something you discussed in section, something that you read, something that you talked about with your friends after class and somehow was connected to your experience here. Anything, or at least 2 things that were personally meaningful and interesting to you. So this is the first thing. The second thing I'd like you to write down, and you may have done it before, you may have written it before, at least 2 commitments that you're making, 2 behavioral changes or attitudinal changes, 2 commitments that you're taking upon yourself now that the semester is almost over. So again, 2 meaningful or interesting ideas, at least, and at least 2 commitments, whether it's in the form of rituals, attitudinal change, or behavioral change. So take just a few minutes to do that in a time in. Okay. Now, what I'd like you to do, and this is completely voluntary, of course, is share some of the things that you have learned, or at least one thing that you learned that was personally meaningful or interesting to you from the semester, and, if you feel comfortable, the one of the two commitments, or both commitments, that you've taken upon yourselves with the person next to you, or with two people next to you. So take just 5 minutes to share with one another one interesting or meaningful thing and one commitment or two. Hmm? Yeah, he's a... Okay. Okay. I hope you continue the rest of the day and for the rest of your life sharing what you've learned, what you are learning, how you're growing. Now what I'd like to do is hear some of you just talk about one thing perhaps that you found interesting or meaningful. It could be directly from the class or something tangential. But what was meaningful or interesting for you this semester? And we have some microphones spread around the room, so if anyone would like to be the first one to volunteer, remember, courage is not about not having fear. It's about having fear and going ahead anyway. If courage was about not having fear, I would not be teaching this class. Elizabeth.
I think for me, what the most important thing was the idea of a self-concordant goal not being frivolous or selfish, but actually being something that one should actively pursue and can help the people around you more than by pursuing that which you're told to pursue.
Great. So essentially dissolving this divide between self and other. And remember the Dalai Lama, how surprised he was when he came to the West and he heard that our word for compassion means essentially compassion toward others, whereas tsewe in Tibetan means compassion toward others and compassion toward oneself. They go hand in hand, they're intertwined. So identifying our self-concordant goals is very much about helping ourselves and ultimately making the world a better place. Wonderful, thank you.
I found the Roger Bannister story really meaningful to me, especially because now I know that nothing's impossible. Even if scientists tell you things are impossible, you can still achieve them.
Right, so often people tell us that it's impossible, you can't do it, and we have that voice in the back of our mind, those limiting beliefs, whether it's limiting beliefs about how we can feel, and what we can achieve. And what the Roger Bannister story does, what it helps us to do, is chip away some of these limitations. and understand our potential. Thank you. Yes.
The day when you told the story about your grandmother and how she was able to still see so much beauty in the world after everything she had been through was very, very moving for me. And that was really a unique experience to be so emotionally moved in this academic setting. So that was very powerful, and it really made me reevaluate the way I look at my life and the way that I appreciate the things that I have.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Baruch. Yeah.
I really like the idea that we can get over things, bad things, a lot quicker than we would anticipate. I just think that, so often we cheat ourselves of so much success or so much potential pleasure. But I think, just the idea of going for it and that we'll ultimately get over it if it doesn't work out is really important.
Right, yeah. So, just like when we achieve something good, we go back to base level and feel as we did before, also when we fail. And it's a real liberating feeling to know that we're resilient, that we will recover. Thank you. Yes.
For me, it was important to realize the balance between the rat racer and the hedonist, finding the balance between short-term benefit and long-term benefit.
Right, so much of our life is about either or. Either I'm a successful rat racer, or I'm a hedonist who has given up, essentially, on success. Whereas what we can very often do is reconcile the two. Eat the cake and leave it whole, so it seems. Future benefit and present benefit in one. Thank you.
To seek to be known and not validated. And the way you taught the class, opening up, let's say, each individual failure you had in your life, I found myself, my own failures, they're different, but they're the same. And I felt less lonely.
Thank you. What I shared, I think the very first class here was what Carl Rogers said, which is what is most personal is most general. Because deep down, humanity is humanity is humanity. And when we live in the world with the desire to be known, expressing ourselves, that's, I think, when we can reach out most to others, whether it's in a romantic relationship, whether it's in friendships, whether it's in a classroom. Thank you. Yes.
One thing I'm going to take away from this class is to be conscious about being grateful, because sometimes I feel that you take for granted the people that you love the most.
To be grateful. There's so many treasures of happiness, of well-being all around us and within us. And the challenge is just to open our eyes, to appreciate them. Yes.
What was really amazing to me was how open others were not in the class, such as family or other friends not in the class, to also take on these changes in their life. They didn't see it as some kooky self-help thing, but really as, oh yeah, maybe I should take note of all these things I'm grateful for in my life and other exercises.
Yeah, this is paying it forward. Sometimes we're so afraid to talk about things that matter to us. And when we do, and when we're real, when we're genuine, when we express ourselves, these things are contagious. And we pay it forward, and then they pay it forward. Thank you. Yes.
Before taking this class, I blamed my mood and my happiness a lot on what was going on around me and my circumstances. And so taking this class has really helped me learn that circumstances really don't control your happiness level, and that I have more of an active role in how I feel.
Right. Remember, one of the things we talked about is that, at least I don't believe that things necessarily happen for the best. There are some times where there are bad circumstances, poor circumstances, hard circumstances. The challenge, though, is how can we make the best of that which has happened? And we do have much more control over it than we think. Yes.
The class allowed me in so many times during almost every day to understand something as part of me being human, as part of my permission to be human, rather than to conceive it as my failings or something I wasn't doing well enough.
So the permission to be human, I've repeated it so many times, and I'll continue to repeat it until use every last minute that I have. to do it, because it really is on so many levels the foundation of well-being. And unfortunately, too much in our culture today, what is going on is what I call the great deception, where we think, well, everyone is doing great except for me, so I'm going to pretend that I'm doing great too. And then we become part of that great deception, reinforcing it. The permission to be human. Yes.
The whole piece about perfectionism. I had never really seen myself as a perfectionist, and I think it was just kind of self-denial. So through the exercises in the course, as well as, you know, in the book and different readings that we've done, have really allowed me to explore that and accept that and make proactive changes in my life to grow away from that.
Great. You know, perfectionism is, again, another thing that so many people hide, because a perfectionist, almost by definition, doesn't want to show the weakness. And as I mentioned in the class on perfectionism, for me, that has been the most important in terms of my progression toward becoming happier. Accepting failure as inevitable, accepting that life is not a straight line, but rather a spiral with ups and downs, as long as the general trajectory is of improvement, growth, and permission. Alan.
So for me, one of the things that really resonated was the idea of reframing the question. At the very beginning, you spoke about the fact that there was a 21-to-1 ratio of negative to positive research. And as someone who will be going into research and neurobiology, it was really interesting, just a reframing of a worldview to start thinking of, well, perhaps start looking at what is working in terms of research. And so I'll take that with me into my academics.
Right. The importance of questions. Questions create our reality. Remember the question of the children on the bus, which most people completely missed. Remember years and years of research that was done in inner cities with at-risk population, where they missed the answer to how can we improve their lives. They missed it because they did not also ask the positive question. And it applies into every area of our lives, as I'll talk about soon. Yes.
Before, I always procrastinate. That is my big problem for my academic. Now I improved a lot. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Procrastination, 70% of students in universities complain about procrastination. It's a huge issue. And one of the ways to overcome it, the best way to overcome it, is to just do it. Just start. Remember the 5-minute takeoff. That's so important. Thank you. Yes.
I was just really impressed with that reading that we read by Gilbert that was talking about how the good luck in your life and the wonderful circumstances you find yourself in are really your own making, and by changing your outlook and your patterns, you can really make a difference in your happiness day to day.
Yeah. You know, so many people lead lives and think, well, only I didn't meet that person, if only this hasn't happened to me, I would have been happy. And understanding that so much of it is determined by our perception is very empowering. Yes.
What's been most meaningful for me has been the fact that this class exists and that there's so many people interested in happiness, because in this culture here at Harvard, we don't always get the chance to really think about it. And as you've said, you're just reminding us of what we already know, but it's also letting us know that we're not crazy for knowing it.
Yeah, we're not. We're not alone, and we need that reminder, and other people need that reminder. And by reminding other people, we also remind ourselves. Thank you. Yes.
For me, it was the concept of integrity, because I think we're all honest people, but it's the little things, the times each day when we compromise our beliefs or act in a way that doesn't align with how we think we should, and that really takes a toll on our self-esteem. And so the idea of being constantly aware of and maintaining our integrity, I think really stands to help us feel better about ourselves.
Right, because, you know, when we tell the truth, we're communicating a certain message to ourselves. When we express ourselves, we're communicating a certain message to ourselves. And the message is, my words count, I count. When we express, I'm good enough, don't need to put on a facade or impress. And that message with self-perception theory actually enhances how we feel about ourselves, not to mention that it helps interpersonal communication, and the world would be a better place if more and more people acted with integrity. Again, self and others divide dissolves. Yes.
One of the phrases that you shared with us in your lectures that's really impacted me, and I've actually embraced as a kind of personal mantra, is learn to fail or fail to learn. There is no other way. And I kind of realized throughout the course of this class what a perfectionist I have been, and how much time throughout my life, from my earliest memories, I've spent really torturing myself with anxiety and fear of making a mistake. And to reframe that and really look at those inevitable moments where I mess up as, you know, fuel for moving forward and as opportunities has been wildly liberating. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. The notion of learn to fail and fail to learn, as you know, it's my personal mantra as well, is very liberating. It's liberating within the context of a relationship, within the context of our academic performance, within the context of an organization, on every level. And it's important to understand that there is no other way to learn, whether it's to draw a circle or to walk. It's just part of life. And if we accept it, we're much happier for it. Thank you. Elizabeth.
What has been really meaningful to me in deciding what concentration to pursue is the idea of happiness as the ultimate currency, and trying to kind of eliminate outside influences and really think about what is meaningful to me and what will make me happy in what I study. So thank you.
Thank you. The ultimate currency. You know, many people say about Americans that one of the reasons why levels of depression are on the rise, one of the reasons why there are so many unhappy people, is because Americans have too high expectations. And that's not true. I disagree with it, and the research disagrees with it. It's not about having high versus low expectations. It's about having right versus wrong expectations. And it applies to many areas. But one of the things to understand is that where do we look to gain gratification from our life? Is it from, again, getting the next accolade, the next promotion, or that people tell us how wonderful our concentration is? Or is it from doing what we want to do? In other words, being determined by the ultimate currency and understanding that happiness is the ultimate currency. Thank you. Yes.
I feel that all this semester, all this year, in fact, I have been trying to, I've been either going to class or running to lab or just finding some way to fill up every hour of my day. And it seems like I'm constantly running from one place to another. And it seems like all my life I've been just essentially trying to fill up every hour of my day. And I feel what's really important and what I really got from this is what you said about doing less is more. And it's something I'm definitely going to keep in mind the next 3 years I'm here.
Yeah, less is more. Quantity affects quality. And we so often wonder, you know, how come I'm not happy? I have so many things in my life that are wonderful and amazing. And that could be part of the problem, because more is not always better. Not easy to simplify, but so very important. So very important. Yes.
The concept of simplicity on the other side of complexity is so hopeful for me, because, you know, when you grow up in life, you add all these variables and it becomes more and more complicated. And as the entropy builds up, there's a certain frustration about, you know, not being able to simplify. But when you say at the top of the complexity is when you realize the beauty of realizing that the simplicity comes after complexity, not before complexity. The knowledge of complexity, that's an amazing concept.
Right. So Oliver Wendell Holmes, who talks about the simplicity on the other side of complexity, and that applies whether it's to ideas. And again, this class, most of it was very simple. And there were no very complicated concepts here. But many of them are the simplicity on the other side of complexity. Same on an individual level. Same on an individual level. Very often we go through hardships and our life is so difficult. We go through a crisis, through a crucible. And what we need to do to understand when we're going through that complexity and hardship and the crucible and the difficulties is that there is simplicity on the other side. Very often all we need to do is hang on. Just wait a little bit longer. And there'll be more clarity, more growth, more development, more joy at the end of it. Yes?
You were passing around the mics, and I was like, oh my God, I don't really have anything to say. There's so many people, I would never do that. And then you said, courage is not about being fearless, but about having fear and doing it anyway. So I just threw my pack over the wall. I was like, give me that mic, I'm going to do it. And it's in my hand, and I'm speaking, so thank you for that.
That's what it's about. It's about behavioral change, not in theory. Good. Yes.
You've spoken in the past few lectures about an anonymous world and about how we would live if our actions were anonymous. And I think that knowing what we want and actually pursuing what we want can be very challenging, even frightening. And it just seems like you really know what you want and have pursued and pursue what you want. And I think that's something to be really proud of. And you definitely seem to practice what you preach or teach, and I have an enormous amount of respect for you because of that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
There are many things, but one thing I really learned from this class is it is important to focus on what we really like to do. You said many times in the class, teaching is your calling, and I can see how much you're enjoying teaching, and it was really inspiring to me. So I think I will remember that, and I will keep looking for my calling and what I really like to do. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Let's take someone with a microphone and we'll get it to you. Anyone has a microphone?
Okay, I used to be the kind of person who ran away from my problems, and I used to try to ignore them until they went away. And I don't do that anymore, because I know that if I'm unhappy, the only person who can do something about it is me, and I need to make a change. And this class has given me all sorts of tools to do that. So thank you.
I just wanted to thank you for the idea of the power of commitment, because it helped me get my job, in something that I want to do, which is journalism, versus something that I wasn't as excited about doing, which was PR. So I wanted to thank you for that, because, I decided to jump into it and throw my bag over the wall. And that's why I got it. So thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Neiman Fellows. Yes.
I remember that you talked about when you stretch a muscle, it gets stronger, and brought up the idea of a stretch zone. And I didn't realize how much stronger I would become when I stretched myself and did things that were things in my stretch zone and my panic zone. And I just thank you, because I think this class has really been the roadmap a lot of us have needed to change and become happier. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
I'd like to, first of all, say, you're great. And, yeah. And also, I am a proud educator in the Milwaukee public school system. Are there any future educators in the room? And what you speak of as, well, Albert Bandura and the theory of self-efficacy is so very important. And anyone who is interested in youth empowerment or education, it's very, very important, number one, to have high expectations for our children, especially children of color. Because as an educator, I see what Bandura talks about and what Dweck talks about, this diminished sense of reality for these kids that produces a whole other world for them. So, I just want to really focus and kind of stress that, and thank you for sharing that it is important to have high expectations for children and for yourselves, of course.
Right. Beliefs are self-fulfilling prophecies. We so often create the world, our world, and the world of those around us based on our beliefs. Let's take a couple of more, and then I'll do my quick summary. Yes.
I've got it. Shall we do it? Oh, okay.
Go for it.
I know this has been mentioned a couple times already, but it's so easy to blame others for our unhappiness or others' actions or even our own actions for our unhappiness. But you've talked so many times about what's going on in our own subconscious and how what our subconscious may be doing might actually be preventing our unhappiness. Or preventing our happiness, rather. And it just brought me back to Marva Collins and how if a student did something wrong, she made them go through the alphabet and say, these are all good things about me. And it's really been enlightening to try to think about how am I thinking, what am I not doing to others, or not what others are doing to me, but what am I thinking that's preventing me from being a happier person.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Let's take two more. So up there.
I guess two things that really stuck with me from the class is the little clip you showed of the baby learning to walk, and just like what you conveyed in that idea of like this baby has no reason to like have a sense of why his falling down should be anything to be ashamed of, and that was just like a very effective way to kind of convey like what you're always saying with kind of learn to fail or fail to learn. That really stuck with me, and also your own willingness to describe your own kind of rises and falls as you went through your own study of psychology and your experiences at Cambridge and at Harvard, and just your willingness to be very open about it is kind of empowering. Like for me, as I'm about to graduate and I go forward and kind of maybe don't know exactly what you want to do, and you consider different options, and obviously that fear of failure, especially when you're coming from a place like Harvard, is maybe especially acute, and it's just your willingness to share those experiences empowering, at least I feel it, as I kind of question the choices I'm going to make, so I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Yes.
Every day is a beautiful day. And to be grateful for that somehow makes it easier to go out and try to do things that maybe even we fail at. And common sense is not that common. And these are all, a lot of things I've learned here I already knew, but now I learned it at Harvard.
Great. All right, let's take one more.
All right, so I'm a senior and I'm leaving, so this is my last lecture class at Harvard. And so I apologize if this message seems a little more geared towards the undergrads in the class. One of the things that I'm very impressed with as a large lecture class is that it's so far-reaching as far as the number of people who want to take it and the diversity of the students in the class. But I guess the experience that I'd like to share is that I came into this class, admittedly, because I value honesty, I will say I
took it because I thought it would be a nice complement to an otherwise difficult senior spring, and I thought, well, it'll be a nice class to have. And my sophomore year, I had gone through kind of a self-discovery post-depression that made me kind of value things in a different way. And so I've been using these lessons that I learned sophomore year, and I thought, well, maybe this class will just be redundant. Turns out I went through another really difficult time during my senior spring. And, I guess what I'd like to relay to especially the undergrads here is that it's very important, if you're a freshman, if you're a sophomore, it's not even too late as a junior, it's very important to prioritize what's really important to you at this school. And let me tell you, it's not the paper, it's not the problem set, it's not getting a full 8 hours of sleep when your friend needs your attention for an hour, because the people here matter most, and you will miss them. And if you don't spend time with them now, you won't have time to spend with them later on. So it's very important. Prioritize what is meaningful for you and what you really, really, really want to do at this school, because before you know it, it will be over. So thank you for helping me remember that and making a meaningful semester.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me summarize. All of these things you've already mentioned before. These are not necessarily the most important. These are the ones that, for me, without looking back on my notes, came up. First, the questions that you ask. The questions that you ask will very often determine the quest that you take. And if we only ask the negative questions, such as why do so many of these individuals fail, then we won't see the potential for greatness that exists in each individual. If we only ask, well, how can my relationship be improved, then we will not see all the wonders and the treasures and the miracle that exists in the person next to us. We also need to ask the positive question, what is good about my relationship? What is great about my partner? What is wonderful about myself? What is meaningful to me? What is pleasurable to me? What am I good at? Questions start a quest. And the kind of quest that they start depends on the quality of the questions that we ask. The 4-minute mile. Beliefs create reality. Not only beliefs, but to a great extent, how we perceive reality is what actually comes true. Marva Collins believed in her students, believes in her students, and miracles happen. Those unteachable ones become extraordinary because of beliefs. Remember John Cotter's study, once again, about business school graduates. 2 things distinguish the extraordinary from the rest. One was that they were always asking questions, always wanting to learn more, having that humbleness that's so important for growth and well-being and self-esteem. And second, they believed in themselves. They had confidence. They had the self-efficacy to succeed and to thrive. How do we improve the belief? By putting ourselves on the line, by coping, by taking risks, by showing ourselves that we can do it. Through visualization. There are no shortcuts to success. Learn to fail or fail to learn. It is no coincidence that the most successful, extraordinary, people in history were also the ones who failed the most. Whether it was in sports, Babe Ruth, who struck out more than any other player of his time, but also hit the most home runs. Whether it was Michael Jordan, who described his failures time and time again, whether it's taking the game-winning shot where he didn't make it, or practicing over and over again. It's no coincidence that Thomas Edison, the person who has more patents than any other scientist in history, is also the scientist who had failed the most times. Remember Dean Simonton's work on scientists as well as artists. The most successful ones were also the ones who failed the most. There is no other way to learn. Moreover, if we accept this, if we accept this growth mindset as opposed to fixed mindset that Carol Dweck talks about it, not only will we improve more, we will also be happier, because then not every experience is a threat to our ego, to our self-esteem. If we accept that failure is inevitable, whether in a relationship, there are disappointments and arguments, or in individual life, or on a national level. No perfect country, no perfect person, no perfect organization. And if we understand that life is about this, as opposed to about this, we'll be so much happier, so much calmer, and paradoxically, so much more successful. The permission to be human. There are two kinds of people who don't experience painful emotions. Who are they again? The psychopaths and dead people. I'm so glad none of you are psychopaths and that you're all alive. It makes the class so much better, so much safer. You're not going to come out of this class experience a constant high. No one experiences a constant high. You're going to continue to have those ups and downs. The only difference, I hope, that you will experience now is that when you experience a painful emotion, you will look at it and say, oh, I'm human. It hurts. I wish it weren't that way. But I accept it just like you accept the law of gravity. Because the law of gravity is as much part of physical nature as painful emotions are part of human nature. Permission to be human. We talked about many interventions that work in this class. Most interventions don't work, as we've seen, whether it's with the Somerville study or others. Journaling works. When we write, when we open up, whether it's in writing or sharing with the person we care about. And it can be a therapist, it can be our best friend, our partner. When we share, when we open up, we're able to make sense, create a sense of coherence, in the words of Antonovsky, about the experiences of our lives, and enjoy higher levels of happiness. It works. There are so many treasures of happiness all around us and within us. And the question is, do we notice them, or do we take them for granted? Remember the word appreciate. It has two meanings. One is to say thank you for something, which is a nice thing to do. Again, Cicero called gratitude the highest of virtues. It's a nice thing to be grateful. But the second meaning is no less important. Appreciate means to grow. And when we appreciate the good in our lives, when we appreciate the good in our relationship, when we appreciate our partner, our friends, our classmates, when we appreciate our country, the good grows. Unfortunately, the opposite is also the case. When we don't appreciate, the good depreciates. There is no perfect relationship, no perfect person, no perfect country. The important thing, though, is to focus on what is working. Appreciate it so that it appreciates. So many people wonder why they're not happy, even though they have all the things that they want to in their lives. Why? Because there can be too much of a good thing. Remember my favorite piece of music? Whitney Houston, And I Will Always Love You. Straight 10. Second favorite, Beethoven's Ninth. 9.5. Play together, noise. Not 19.5, not 10, not 5. Noise. There can be too much of a good thing. Easier said than done to simplify, but remember that a much better predictor of well-being than material affluence is time affluence. Simplify, assert yourself, say no at times when it's appropriate. Find out what you really, really, really want to do with your life and do it. The number one predictor of well-being, relationships. The number one predictor of well-being are the intimate relationships that you cultivate now and in the future. Matters more than anything else in the world. Yes, even more than a problem set. Even more than an exam. Even more than how wildly successful we are and how admired we are. Yeah, that will lead to a spike in our well-being. Very quickly we'll go back to base level, just like the tenured professors went back to base level, just like the lottery winners and the highly successful individuals who thought they had made it and then went to base level and below because they didn't know what would make them happier. Well, this is what can, one of the things that can make us happier. And to cultivate relationship means to invest in them, to put time into them, to share, to open up. Just like we would invest if we found our ideal job, ideal workplace. We would start to invest then. Same with relationships. Remember, movies end where love begins. It's about cultivating the relationship after the screen comes down, after the sun sets. That's where the investment, that's where the return on investment comes. Our mind can take us only so far. You know, I know positive psychology pretty well. I apply everything that I talk about here. However, I really think that if I was not cognizant of the mind-body connection and applying the mind-body connection to my life, I would be far less happy than I am today. Why? Because I would be compromising on my base level, God-given, genes-given level of well-being. Because when we don't exercise, it's like taking a depressant. And then we have to fight our nature. And it's very hard to fight our nature. It's very difficult to enhance our levels of well-being as is. To have to also fight against nature is incredibly difficult. So remember the wonder drug. Exercise at least 4 times a week for 30 minutes. If you can, if you're interested, do some form of yoga or mindful meditation, sitting meditation. If not, at the very least, breathe. Breathe deeply. A few times a day, 3 deep breaths can make a big difference. Now is not a bad time to do it. Sleep. When possible, 8 hours or somewhere around 8 hours a night of sleep. And touch. Hug, embrace. An underused sense, and so important. Be known rather than validated. And again, all of us have the need to be validated. It's not about getting rid of our dependent self-esteem, but it is very much about, first and foremost, being known, expressing rather than impressing. Life becomes so much lighter, so much easier, so much more exciting when we're about expressing ourselves, being known rather than being validated, whether it's with our romantic partner, our family, our friends, our colleagues, our class, the foundation of the growth of intimacy and passion in long-term relationships. Easier said than done. It's so important. Now, I tried to have top 10, but I couldn't. I had to have one more, so you'll have to excuse me. The last one, and one that brings together all the others on so many levels, is the one about change. Finally, right? You've been waiting the entire semester just for this. Well, it was worth the wait, I hope. There are two types, I mean, there are many types, but there are also two types of graduates from 1504 or any other class or workshop that is about attaining higher levels of happiness. One that at best enjoys a temporary high or a nice memory and then goes back down to base level, and the second one that enjoys maybe that same temporary high, which cannot last our entire lives, but then still enjoy continuous growth throughout their lives. And the difference, the primary difference, is whether or not you introduce behavioral changes. Remember Peter Drucker, what he said whenever people came to him for a weekend seminar, intensive. He said, on Monday, don't call me to tell me how wonderful it was. Call me and tell me what you're doing differently. Because in his 65 years of experience working with the most successful, the most inspiring, the best and the brightest people in the world, what he has found, that this is what distinguishes real lasting change from a temporary high. Don't tell me how wonderful it was. Tell me what you're doing differently on Monday. Produce behavioral change now. This is the core of change. What you learned in this class, hopefully, is only the beginning. Only the beginning, because remember, like once again, Kosher study, the people who succeed the most, who are happiest, who succeed the most in the ultimate currency, in the long term, are ones who are lifelong learners, always asking questions, always finding out more. There are many people with good intentions. Many people with good intentions, but good intentions are not enough. What we also need is the foundation, the empirical, rigorous, scientific foundation of things that work. And when we know these things, then we pay them forward, then we share them. In psychology, among the other social sciences and humanities, what you got here at Harvard, what you're getting here at Harvard, is that foundation that can make the world a better place. I don't teach this class only because it's fun for me. It is fun for me. Yes, it is very pleasurable to me. I told you I can't wait for Tuesdays and Thursdays to share what I care about most with you. Yes, it's fun. But I don't just do it because of that. I do it because I think the ideas of some of the great psychologists that I've quoted and cited and discussed, their ideas can change the world for the better. Maslow, back in 1954, wrote, I'm not only the disinterested and impersonal seeker for pure, cold truth for its own sake. I'm also very definitely interested and concerned with man's fate, with his ends and goals, and with his future. I would like to help improve him and better his prospects. I hope to help teach him how to be brotherly, cooperative, peaceful, courageous, and just. I think science is the best hope for achieving this. And of all the sciences, I considered psychology most important to this end. Indeed, I sometimes think that the world will either be saved by psychologists in the very broadest sense, or else it will not be saved at all. In the broadest sense of psychologists. That doesn't mean that you now have to go on and get a PhD in psychology or to concentrate in psychology. But it means to be cognizant, to be self-aware of what is going on in here, the most wondrous and amazing entity in the universe. To understand what's going on here and there and here and how they are connected, and to share it by being practical idealists. And you can make a difference. You can make a difference because the one has incredible power. Remember, if you make 3 people smile and they make 3 other people smile, after 20 iterations, you will touch every single human being on the planet. Happiness is contagious. Let me show you one last video of how happiness and joy is contagious.
Daddy's gonna make you laugh now. Ready? Do it again. Daddy just bring a stand-up comedian, isn't he?
What kind of world they will grow into depends on you. And it depends on whether or not you first and foremost take care of yourself. In the words of Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world. If you want a happier world, be that change. Oh, the places you will go. I would like to remind you that every time you go to a place, and very often you will fly to a place, that every time you go, you will hear something that hopefully will trigger, hopefully will remind you how important it is to take care of yourself. Because to take care of others, you first and foremost need to take care of yourself. You know, when you fly, and the flight attendant says, in case of an emergency, and the oxygen mask comes down, first help yourself before you help others who need your help. Because that is the source, the foundation of the golden rule. It is the foundation of a better world, the ultimate currency. So each time you go to one of those wonderful places, exotic or otherwise, remember to simplify. Remember to take care of yourself. Remember to exercise. Remember to assert yourself and say no when appropriate. Remember to cultivate your relationships. Remember what it is that is really, really important for you in your life. This experience this semester, for me, has been extraordinary. And it was made extraordinary, first, by the amazing teaching staff that we have. Why don't you come up? Just 2 minutes. 2 minutes, not more, okay? You have no idea what kind of work was going on behind the scenes. You have no idea how much each and every one of the teaching staff, the head TFs, Sean and Deb, and every one of the others, how much time they put into cultivating that relationship with you, how many hours they spent, how many mindful and heartful moments they spent. So I would like to thank them, and I would like you to thank them for their presence, for who they are. So thank you. Come on, come on. Sure.
There's many jokes to be made, but we would like to give our TFs a little token of our appreciation. And a way to celebrate their hard work. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to say something? It's your turn.
My turn. Thank you. Okay. Quick. Okay, so I actually just want to say thank you to all of our TS for their great work. Thank you to all the students here and extension students. Most importantly, I'd like to thank I'd like to thank Tal. So first, actually, I want to thank Tal's grandparents for surviving, for his parents for thriving, and
for you know what, yeah. Okay.
For you know whating. I'd like to thank Tammy for putting a smile on Tal's face, and Sherelle and David for sharing him with us, and for the opportunity for all of us to be a little more human because of her humanness. So thank you.
Thank you.
We're not the only ones who are intensely grateful to you. You've touched so many people here this semester, and always, but your students this semester all sent in thank you notes, and we've compiled them and bound them for you for all the places you go to take with you.
Thank you.
So thank you.
That is volume 1 of the gratitude book, where more letters are coming in, so you can still send them. And finally, it wouldn't be, we want a token for you to always remember this class and this great opportunity, something that we would hope you would use every time you teach this class in the future. I mean, no pressure. And because you are our king leader, and it's time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Just one more thing. One more. Thank you. Thank you so much. Just want to say 2 more things. I know we're over time. I'm really sorry. Well, 1 minute. I want to thank just a few other people. I would like to thank Barry, Reed, sitting at the back. And the wonderful crew who are bringing this class to your homes, to your computers. And finally, I would like to thank you. Each and every one of you is an entire world. A world in the making. In the making of this world. Your world, our world. A better place. So thank you. And take care. Take good care.